All right, good Friday afternoon, everyone. It's meteorologist Brad Maushart here in the Fox 19 First Alert Streaming Center, and we are here for your noon weather update on what looks to be a very active day across not just the Ohio Valley, but much of the Midwest. And we have a severe weather outbreak likely. Moderate risk is in place, even here in the tri-state. A small portion of us under that moderate risk, including downtown. Other areas at least under an enhanced risk. That's either a 3 or a 4 out of 5 on the SPC's scale. So big threats outside, widespread damaging wind. We're talking very intense tornadoes, all a possibility. So make sure to stay weather aware as we work our way through the evening hours tonight. That is when it's going to happen. The storms that are pushing through right now are not the severe weather threat. That will ramp up again later on this evening. So we're going to wait through tonight, noon to 6. We will dry back out. I know it's gloomy outside. I've had a couple questions already on social media, people asking, hey, we have some rain right now. Is that going to impact things later? Sometimes when you have some rain showers in the early afternoon, it can help to limit the severe threat. It's not going to happen. Just off to the west, and I'll show you in just a second, we're already clearing back out in central Indiana. Temperatures are quickly jumping up. Some spots already in the 80s, or at least very close to it in western Indiana. So that sunshine will help to quickly revamp things for the big threat, which starts to push back in with our severe weather window right around 6 p.m. to midnight. That's when we have to be on our toes here across the Cincinnati area. Widespread severe storms pushing in. Again, all threats with this are going to be possible. They're elevated threats, not just garden variety severe storms either, right? We're talking the potential for EF2 plus intensity tornadoes, damaging wind in excess of 75, 80 miles per hour. You start to factor in that damaging wind this time of the year when the leaves are on the trees, rather than if it had happened about a month ago when those leaves hadn't come out yet. Those leaves are going to catch that wind like a sail. You're more likely now this time of the year to see severe winds have more impact with power outages just due to the leaves that are on the trees outside. Plus, it's been soggy all week. The ground's saturated. It won't take much with some damaging wind outside tonight, and we're going to have much more than just a little bit in a lot of cases out there. Hail. We're going to see hail in some of the stronger storms, especially if we have some discrete cells pop up ahead of the main line, because the main line is going to be a little closer to 8 o'clock to midnight. But between 5 to 7, 5 to 8-ish, in that time frame, we'll have a chance to see a few isolated storms popping up into the afternoon. And those will have the bigger threats to produce large hail. Some cases, the hail could be a couple inches or more in diameter. We're talking about a hen egg, chicken egg, in diameter. So things to keep an eye on for that. And of course, flash flooding, can't rule it out, when you have strong storms like this, but that threat luckily looks to be a little lower than what we were looking at yesterday, but still a threat outside tonight. After midnight tonight, we will hang on to a few lingering showers, some gusty breezes from here to here, here to there, here to here. We'll see some gusts upwards of 30, 35 miles an hour through the day Saturday. That might have a little impact on some of the outdoor plans, but again, most of that rain is out of here by 2, 3, 4 o'clock tomorrow morning. Just a few lingering isolated showers to midday Saturday. So that's our timeline we're going to be dealing with. We'll dive into that in detail coming up in just a bit. Let's talk about right now, because we do have some storms rolling through. Most of it has been south of downtown, south of the river, Falmouth at 68, rain-cooled 68 compared to where it stayed, a little bit drier, 76 in Middletown. Off to the west, I told you that sun's already starting to peek back out, west of the I-69 corridor in Indiana. Bloomington's up to 78 degrees, Terre Haute 81. And we are expected to get back and rebound very quickly between about 2 o'clock this afternoon and 5 o'clock, back to about 82 degrees. So it won't take much to get us back up, with the sunshine just off to the west to get those temperatures jumping back up. You can already see back off to the west, not only are we seeing clearing skies just south of Bloomington, but a little cumulus field starting to develop there. Muncie, Indiana, seeing some cumulus clouds. Those cumulus clouds are kind of like a seed, and they will eventually grow into thunderstorms. Now, yesterday, I'll bring it up. I wasn't going to, but I'll bring up yesterday. Yesterday, we did not have storms. We told you kind of through the week there was going to be a cap, an inversion aloft. It's that warm air that sits aloft that kind of inhibits the growth of storms. We did not break the cap yesterday. Today, there will not be a cap. If there is, it's very minimal. It will have no effect on this because this will be a front that's pushing through and that'll help push these storms through that cap, that protective dome aloft, essentially. So these will have no problem taking off. This is not the same setup as what we saw outside Thursday, so no, there's not a chance that cap holds on tonight. I would say at least 90% of us, if not 100% of us, will see rain or storms at some point this evening that could be on the strong side. This will be a widespread threat. It's a very minimal chance you get really lucky and we get a 7-10 split somewhere in the tri-state, and that area misses. We get missed by the storms, north and south, but very slim chance for that to happen today. Let's take a little wider view of what's going on across the Ohio Valley. I'll check comments here in just a minute. So if you guys have any questions, throw them in the comments section on Facebook. I'll try to get around to a lot of those. And we'll work on that as we work our way through the next. I'll probably be on a little longer today, just due to the nature of this threat we're going to see outside for our Friday. So I'll probably be on if I had to guess, probably closer to 12:45 today. So we have plenty of time here to talk about weather and any questions you might have. So, yeah, this clearing we're seeing off of the west, it's not good for us. I mean, like I said, we're already starting to see the back end of that morning cloud cover pushing through Decatur and Fayette counties in Indiana. Off down to the southwest, just west of Louisville, it's nothing but mostly sunny skies, and we have a large gap of it. It's kind of what they call the warm sector in storm chasing world. Where things warm back up, that's where you want to be if you're going to be chasing those storms, tornadoes, severe storms. And you can see we have a very wide warm sector today, stretching all the way from Missouri back into Indiana. So a lot of warm air going to funnel on in. These storms down here, they're going to stay south of us. Those aren't a threat. And they're south of the tri-state. You might have a lingering shower, maybe a rumble of thunder between now and 2 o'clock. But by 2, most of us are dry. And then we're going to see that sunshine help to really re-energize the atmosphere in a hurry. And this is the area, that's the bullseye that the Storm Prediction Center has put under a moderate risk today. Yesterday it was enhanced. Today is a moderate risk. What a 4 out of 5 means is a combination both of it's going to be slightly more intense. The storms are going to be slightly more intense than what you'd see with a slight or an enhanced, but also much more widespread. And the threats, especially tornadoes, can be much more long-lasting. Instead of a short-lived spin-up that's only on the ground for a few hundred yards, we're talking, EF2 plus tornadoes in here somewhere today, somewhere within that red dot, and probably the orange one too, where we're going to see those very long-track tornadoes. Not a fun thing to put in a forecast, but, it's better than being surprised by them, I guess. So that's what we're keeping an eye on today. Again, that severe threat stretches all the way back into the boot heel of Missouri, right up the Ohio River Valley, and it does include Hamilton County, a lot of it, including the downtown area. With that said, you don't have to cancel your Friday plans. I don't ever tell people to cancel plans. I try not to. I'll give you my best advice. If you're going to be out and about tonight, just have a way to get inside, get to shelter. There are a lot of outdoor things that happen this time of the year. This is not a complete list because I'll only list 3 things, but the 3 biggest things that are probably happening around downtown that I can think of. First off, we got a Zach Brown concert. The Zach Brown Band is over at TQL Stadium tonight. Good crowd for that expected. That is doors, I think, are 5:30 expected for that. We'll see how that might transpire as we work way a little closer to the event tonight. We have the Reds for Fireworks Friday. It's a Battle of Ohio. Cleveland is in town. That game is scheduled for 6:40, a 6:40 start. Again, both of these events are going to be within the severe weather window we're going to see. And then, of course, over across the river, we have Mayfest over in Covington near Mainstrasse. So just be aware. If you have plans ahead of these events, you don't have to cancel them unless you really want to urge on the side of caution. But if you are headed to it, have a way to get the warnings on your phone. Make sure your phone's fully charged before you leave the house, so you can get those EAS messages sent to sent to your hand, or any kind of other apps you might use, including ours. If you get those push alerts to tell you that storms are on the way, or that a warning has been issued, and then make sure that if you're at those events, have a way to get into adequate cover. Concourses, they're not perfect for this kind of a setup. Normal rain, a little bit of lightning, sure, they're a decent, safe spot. But when you start talking about hail over 2 inches, getting thrown by 70-mile-an-hour winds, tornadoes especially, we hope that doesn't happen. But, the likelihood is there today, especially southwest of town there, that we're going to see some problems. So just make sure you have a plan. And then, make sure everybody in your party knows that plan too. If we're going to be out and about tonight. Don't cancel, but be very, very cautious because this is a significant severe weather episode we're going to be seeing. This is a little change from yesterday, too. The tornado risk that we've seen outside. Yesterday I told you it was a 10% to 15, 10% to 14.9% chance. Don't focus on the specific numbers. Just know that 10%, it doesn't sound like it's very high, but that's a significant threat. especially when they add the significant hatching on there, that black little spotted look you can see anywhere really for most of the tri-state, with the exception of our northeasternmost communities, stretching especially down through portions of Switzerland County, Carroll County, Gallatin County, Owen, Grant, and a little bit of Pendleton County, maybe even just a sliver there of southern Boone County. That red shaded area, that is a 15 to 29.9% chance. Again, it doesn't sound good, right? If you're looking for rain chances and I say 100, you're like, well, it's going to rain, right? That is a high-end tornado threat, and the hashing that includes most of the tri-state is for a significant threat. Significant meaning we are going to see, more than likely, a good chance, or at least the potential is there, rather, to see EF2 or stronger tornadoes. Those are the tornadoes that are very intense, the winds are very fast, and they are typically on the ground a little longer than the short-lived EF0's spin-ups. You can have an EF0 that's on the ground for 100 miles, but it's not going to be as impactful in most cases as an EF2. Just a little bit more destructive. And certainly, like I said, why we're taking this very seriously outside today, because there is a very good chance for that. Let me go ahead and kind of zoom out here on this. And you can see that is kind of the bullseye today. From eastern, southeast Missouri all the way up the Ohio River, essentially, up into our southwesternmost communities. That's the best chance to see tornadoes today. And most of the rest of the tri-state, like I said, at least under a 10%. And that's a lot higher. Like most of our summer storms, if we ever have a tornado chance, or some of the spring-type storms, it's usually in these green and brown shaded areas, 5%, 2%. A chance you might see a small tornado or two, but these are more significant threats that we're going to be dealing with. So here's a current look at the radar, satellite and radar, SATRAD. Again, most of the rain activity from this morning is quickly pushing out to the east. Off to the west, the clouds already thinning. That line of sunshine is quickly approaching the 65 corridor to our west. You're probably looking out the window there in Greensburg and probably already seeing some sunshine as well out the window to the northwest, starting to sneak in under that cloud deck. Another zoomed in look, you can see these little itty-bitty clouds. They look like little cotton balls, right? That's telling you the atmosphere is ripe. It's already heating back up. The clouds are already starting to grow behind it. So that's what we're going to keep an eye on. This will continue to increase this field of cloud cover. Southeast Missouri all the way through Kentucky. Once that first blob of rain clears out, that's when the next round of development will start to take place, and it'll be back here. And that's what we'll keep an eye on. That should happen within the next hour or two. Might even have a little indication there on radar just southeast of St. Louis. Maybe we got one trying to go up, but I don't see any clouds in that area, so that's probably just, I don't know, maybe a flock of birds. I don't know. Haven't looked that much into it. Paducah, already seeing some of those clouds, those puffy clouds starting to get going again. So that's what we'll keep an eye on over the next couple of hours. Again, our threat here from Cincinnati is not going to be until later this evening. So what I don't want you to do is to think of yesterday. Let's see. I'm not streaming on Facebook. You're positive about that? Because I have it streaming on Facebook. Unless I accidentally sent it to my page, which might be a disaster. Hold on, let's see. I am on Facebook for one of them. It might just be mine, and not the Fox one. So, give me just a second. We're going to see if we can maybe. Let me just double check on this real quick. I had a producer tell me we might not be on the Facebook, but it might just be on mine, which would be, of course, the mistake I would make here on a Friday. Let's see. Well, that looks like I'm there. Yep, so I'm just on my Facebook. Let's see. Give me just a second here. I'm going to see if I can somehow transfer this over. It probably won't work. Yeah. There it is. Let's see if we can do this. I'm trying to add the Fox page now. Sorry for the delay here. All right, it looks like it is done. It should be streaming now. Let me just check on that real quick. Make sure we're going on the Fox 19 page. All right, looks like we're live now. Sorry about that, folks. If you're just joining us now on the Fox 19 page, I apologize. They're on Facebook. Been going here for about 15 minutes, but it was on my page. I did not share it to the right page. So sorry about that. We'll give everybody a recap. I'm going to be on extra long today, so if anybody has any comments here on Facebook, please feel free to get back to me. I'll get back to you, rather. Let's see, I'll keep that page pulled up too. We'll come back to that. Let's hop into timing. I've told you it's mostly an evening event. What I don't want you to do tonight is to see the sunshine pop out here the next couple of hours between 1, 2, 3 o'clock. We're going to see mostly sunny skies initially. I don't want you to say, well, the rain already pushed in. That was our threat. It's over. It is going to be an evening and early overnight threat. Here in Cincinnati, it might even be after sunset in some spots. So don't let your guard down. I know we didn't have storms yesterday. This is kind of a nightmare for me because when you have a cap and in one situation, a severe weather threat, and nothing happens, it's kind of like screaming wolf, right? People get kind of, a little bit malaise. They'd say, okay, well, we're not going to see, the storms. It didn't happen yesterday. It won't happen today. Today's a very different setup. Severe threats are the same, but this is going to be a much more widespread threat, and you'll see it here. This is by 5 o'clock. It says you're heading home on a Friday. You're thinking, we're looking good, right? No dark clouds on the horizon, but storms will quickly start to develop between 5 to 7 o'clock. All right? At first, we're going to see some isolated storms. And those isolated storms are going to be the ones that are going to be most capable of producing large hail. Large hail, big tornado threat, and of course damaging wind. They're what we call supercells. They're going to be storms off on their own, similar to the one that's showing up in this particular model down in Owenton, right? Owen County. And if I zoom this out a little bit, just a little bit, you'll see down here to the southwest, there will be several of these kind of discrete cells pushing through that big bullseye the Storm Prediction Center laid out. Whereas this is more of a line across central Indiana. That is more of a damaging wind with spin-ups threat. Not saying you can't get a violent tornado out of that or an intense tornado out of that, but that is more of a damaging wind threat with smaller hail, generally. Again, not always, but it'll be the 5 to 7, maybe 8 o'clock window that we're going to keep a very close eye on for the big tornadoes, wall-to-wall coverage kind of situation. Moving ahead in the timeline, by 8 to 9 o'clock, most of our westernmost communities and even downtown will start to see these storms rolling in. This is not going to be exact. That's why I'm going to give you a window after this of timing, because sometimes these models are ahead or behind by a little bit. Let me go ahead and just stop this so I can move this around. But generally, sometime between about 8 to 10 o'clock downtown, we are going to see the strong storms whipping through. Just be very careful from that time on, because that's when we'll have the storms. Those storms will then linger till about midnight, maybe out of here at 11 in our westernmost communities, but storms will try to linger around downtown and our easternmost communities through midnight to 1 o'clock, and then we will quickly dry back out through the overnight hours. It'll be a little breezy outside, but we're mostly dry before about 2 to 3 o'clock, in the morning. So that's the timing I have on this particular model. This is a latest run. Again, we'll keep an eye on the skies sometime between about 5 to 8 o'clock. It's not going to be widespread at that point, but if we do see storms with the atmosphere we are going to have, it will be volatile. They will take off quickly. They're not going to be widespread, but they will take off quickly. Working our way a little later in the evening, those storms do become pretty widespread. By 8 to 10 o'clock across the tri-state is, I think, our best window to see the bad weather. And then by 9, 10, 11 o'clock, or mostly 10 and 11 o'clock, those storms start to push into our easternmost communities. And then most of us are drying out between 11 to 1 in the morning, 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. So again, more of a, instead of looking at the model, think of it this way. Here's my general timeline, if it loads. By 5 to 7 o'clock, especially west and southwest of town, keep a very close eye on things, because that is when things are going to start to quickly change. It's going to be really nice in the next couple of hours up until about 8 to 9 o'clock, 5 to 7 o'clock. That's where things are quickly going to start to change. By 7 to 9, this is the arrival time this evening, not the entirety of the storm. I just want to point that out too. These times are when the storms will first arrive. By 7 to 9, be on the lookout downtown. What happens between 7 to 9? A big concert, Reds game, outdoor dinner plans, Mayfest in Covington, right? That's a prime window to be out and about, right? Be very careful, because things will change very quickly. These storms will move fast. They will intensify quickly. You don't want to be caught trying to run to a car or something. That's not going to be fun out there. So these are the arrival times of the storms. Altogether, most of the storm activity is out of town by 11 to midnight. A little later, midnight to 1 in our easternmost communities. Let's go ahead and we'll go to the extended forecast. I'll go back up to the top. I'll read through the comments on Facebook as well. And again, I apologize for jumping in late over here on Facebook on the Fox 19 page. I shared it to the wrong one. It wasn't set up right on my end, so I apologize for that. But I'll hop over to those comments here in a second, and I'll check out the ones also on my page once I find them. Might have to do it on my phone. So tomorrow morning, we will be clearing back out pretty quickly. There will be a stray chance we can hang on to some lingering showers outside. Overall, not a big threat for tomorrow. We do clear out by the afternoon, and it looks like a great day if it weren't for the wind. Tomorrow, it's going to be breezy behind the storm system. Those winds will be whipping at times over 30 miles an hour. A little breezy, but with 75, I mean, it's not going to be necessarily cold or anything, but it will be a little uncomfortable to be outside. A little extra hairspray kind of day. Sunday looks perfect, though. If you don't have plans on Sunday, make some. 73 degrees outside. We're going to see a little bit of a cool down into next week, Thursday, Friday. That comes after a widespread rain threat Tuesday and Wednesday. Not done with the rain yet, but at least that doesn't look to be a big severe threat, at least not at this time. But it does look like after a nice dry weekend, air drying on Saturday and a nice Sunday, that we're going to see a good amount of rain Tuesday and Wednesday. I'll show you that here on this model, what it's showing out there. So here we go. Let me back it up a little bit. So here's Saturday, we're drying back out. Again, Saturday afternoon, evening, really nice, just breezy. Sunday looks even better. All the rain stays off to the southwest. Looks like a really nice day. Monday, the rain chances are back, spotty at first, and then it becomes widespread and intense at times, both Tuesday and Wednesday. Wednesday could be a slow go of it, especially in the morning. We dry back out then Thursday, and then by the time it is all said and done, take a look at this rain total by the time we hit the end of this. Again, grain of salt, just depending on totals, but it gives you an idea of what we're going to be dealing with rain total-wise in the next week. Some spots could see over 3 inches of rain. So it just depends, especially if we get hit by one of these heavier downpours, or a couple of them today, you could quickly pick up a couple inches of rain. That's why we have that, very localized flash flooding threat, but combine the heavier rainfall Tuesday and Wednesday, and we're talking a widespread swath of the tri-state, at least 1 to 2 inches. Maybe a little bit more in some spots. So just be aware of that. Let's hop to the 7-day again, and I'll show you what we're dealing with next week. And then we'll try to get in here and chalk up some comments and see what we got. Let's see. Make sure I'm turned down, or I don't want to hear myself. Let's see. Daughter's supposed to fly home from Chicago at 8:30. Trying to decide if she should even try. Yeah, I mean, that's a tough call. I've been surprised by airlines sometimes. Sometimes you get, Top Gun that tries to get the plane in there right ahead of the storm. It's not impossible to get in. Best case scenario with that, it's Chicago. So if they do make it all the way down here and they circle for a bit and they can't land right away, they don't have to fly 3 hours back somewhere. It's just another quick, 30 minutes until they get back to Chicago, flight-wise from here. So, yeah, I mean, always try, especially if that flight, if it leaves at 8:30, I think you're going to have our try. If it's supposed to get in at 8:30, you might be able to get that plane down before the storms get in here. Might be a little bumpy. Put the seatbelt on. Hello, Lisa. Good to see you. Thank you for the update. What do you think about tomorrow? So, Mary, tomorrow looks great. We'll clear out pretty quickly. There might be a lingering shower hanging around, but most of that rain's out for most of us by the morning hours, and then the afternoon will be a mix of sun and clouds. Just breezy. We'll see gusts tomorrow, 30 plus through our Saturday. So a little windy. Sunday looks great. And, I know a lot of people have, probably after this week and what we've seen the last couple of weeks, probably some storm anxiety going on. Getting a little tired of hearing about storms. Quite frankly, I'd rather have a break so I can just talk about sunshine. But yeah, we'll be here, be it on Facebook. If we do have to go wall to wall later, there's a good chance that somebody will set this up correctly and it'll actually go to the right Facebook page next time. And we'll be on Facebook and YouTube as well. So if you're out and about, obviously you're not going to carry around your flat screen with you. You'll have a way to watch us later, be it online or on the air. So, if it gets to a point where if we do have a tornado and we're telling you to go and, get to your safe spot, you can always take your phone with you. Just make sure to keep it charged through the day, just to be on the safe side. Just in case you do take it with you, and keep a pair of shoes handy, of course, just in case. Worst case, always plan for the worst and, hope for the best. And hopefully I can just be wrong, and that would be nice, too, for everybody. Let's see. How about tonight? Greenfield, Ohio. So, yeah. So this threat, Jeff, and everybody else, because I know there's going to be a lot of comments as I scroll through here asking about specific towns. Let me just jump up here real quick. And then I'll kind of run through this again from the top for those of you who might have accidentally joined late on my behalf because I didn't stream right again. So these are the arrival times this evening. These are just the arrival time. It's not going to be a 7 to 9 thing and then it clears out. This is just the earliest the storms will get there in these different colors of seafoam green. 5 to 7 in our westernmost communities. So if you're into the west or especially west of the tri-state, central Indiana, Louisville, these storms are going to get here before dinner time, right? In our westernmost communities, Decatur County down to Owen County, where things are going to be a little bit worse down there. Owen, Carroll County, Gallatin County, that's where the chances are today. The best chances, or in this case, maybe the worst chances for the worst weather. That's where that's going to happen. Closer to the 5 o'clock window. Whereas, Lawrenceburg, eastern Dearborn County, the state line there as it crosses into Hamilton County, probably a little closer to 7 to 8, and then 7 to 9 downtown. Some of the models have us getting that rain here right around the 9 o'clock hour. Just keep an eye on things because ahead of the main line that looks like it's going to be pretty destructive, there are going to be discrete cells that are going to try to pop up ahead of that line. So the main line might come in at 9, but you might have another storm that pops up at 6 or 7. So that's why, generally after 5 to 6 o'clock, just be on your toes. As these storms start to pop up. A little later off to the east for that damaging line as it pushes its way on through. And then this rain exits later tonight, just after midnight or so in most cases. Let's see what else. We have no cap today. Yep, no cap. This is not going to be, the situation we had yesterday where the storms are kind of held down, or in yesterday's case, held down altogether. So, again, don't let your guard down because here's what's going to happen. Timing-wise, before the storms get here. We have some rain right now. I don't want anybody to think, well, we did have one severe thunderstorm this morning. I think it was down in Owen County. It was like right when I was waking up. These storms that are pushing through right now, the Ohio Valley, this is not the threat. These storms are going to quickly exit. That sunshine is already pushing in from the west. You can see Bloomington is already back to mostly sunny skies. Within the next hour and a half or so, most of the tri-state will be seeing mostly sunny skies. If I can just get that giant warm front off there, you can also see. You can see already Fayette County. You're probably seeing some sunshine up there in Connorsville. That's northwest of downtown. So up here near Connorsville, Greensburg, you're probably looking out the window now and seeing that line of clouds exit. Once it does, that sunshine's going to have no problem pushing us back up, in a lot of spots, back into the 80s, mid-80s in some spots. And that'll be thunderstorm of fuel again. So it's just going to refresh the atmosphere. Let's see what we got. Got Matt out there chasing storms. Be safe. Watch for the other drivers and the giant storm-sized potholes. Let's see what else we got here. Bad news, Brad. You're right. Coming in hot today, baby. You thought you were going to have a nice Friday? I thought I was going to have a nice Friday. I'd love to get out of here at 5 o'clock, but... it's just how it is. It's already up to 81 in Terre Haute, so that's where the sunshine's peeking out back there. They're going to have no problem getting back up. We'll have no problem getting back up into the 80s. So, again, nasty day. Let me see if I can pop this out, pop this chat out so I can just read them on here. That'll be a little easier, and it will look a little less weird than me looking at my phone. I promise I'm reading your comments. All the storms today. Just given the volatility of the atmosphere, there was kind of a question / comment, just talking about the line is going to be bad, but the pop-up, the discrete cells are going to be really bad. Yeah. So what happens? Those discrete cells, they're more often in a setup like this likely to rotate. You're likely to have some rotation. They don't have other cells and storms around them that are getting in the way, so that wind is unobstructed. They have unlimited access to the atmosphere around them, which, in a couple hours will be back in the 80s. They have a lot of moisture to work with. What is the dew point up to? Let me just check this. Where are we at? 70s. It feels soupy outside. If you haven't been outside yet, or if you're like me and you had to walk out the door in a suit, it's going to stick to you when you walk out the door. Batesville at 70, Hamilton at 70. What a dew point is, it's just a measure of moisture in the air, and the higher it is, the more moisture there is. And 71, we don't typically see a lot of 70s here until like maybe July when the corn starts to get going. You get the corn sweats around here. So this is a lot of moisture. I'll just tell you, and we'll give you the trend here too. I did have this up yesterday. Last weekend, remember when it was super nice? Saturday, Sunday of last weekend? Look at where the dew point trend was. I mean, it was at the bottom, bottom of this chart. If I could hit play on this, it would actually let me draw on it. So down here at the bottom, that's where we were last weekend when it was really nice and comfortable for Mother's Day. And then Monday, the rain chances pushed back in. You saw the dew point climb back to more muggy levels. Muggy, muggy, muggy. Yesterday, even despite us getting up to these very humid levels, we're not South Florida, but we got up to very humid levels in a few spots yesterday. It was mid-70s out in Batesville yesterday. The cap stayed on. Today we don't have that cap. We're going to see those storms firing up. They'll have an abundance of moisture to work with, an abundance of heat. They will be kind of an unlimited, not unlimited. There's a limit, but they'll just have a lot to work with. We'll put it that way. And the discrete cells ahead of the main line will have even more fuel than the line, just because they'll be uninhibited by anything else around them. Yeah, chasing around this area is tough until you get back, pretty much past the Batesville area into southeast Indiana. That's when it starts to flatten out. State Route 3, there's still some hills between Greensburg and Rushville. Just going back to my chasing days, but at least you have some wide open territory out there. Starts to get hilly again once you get down south of Ripley County. Ripley County's not great for storm chasing around here just because of the hills. If I take the satellite off, we can actually see some terrain here. Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of places in here that are great storm chasing. And plus, this is the other reason, and I don't really want to give storm chasers a ton of advice, but be careful tonight too, because it's going to be tough to see. The trees have all the leaves on them already. These storms are going to be moving fast, and it's going to happen in most cases after the sun sets tonight. So take that for what it's worth when it comes to storm chasing advice. It's not a great spot to begin with, and timing, it's going to be really difficult to see anything. It's not really going to be worth a lot of your whiles. Kentucky, and in most cases, the area of the bullseye here, not a lot of great spots there either. Southern Indiana, notoriously awful spot to chase storms. Too many hills. Southern Illinois, there are some spots, but it's not great. Avoid Missouri at all costs. Tennessee, yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of great spots around here. Couple that with the late evening after sunset, you're not going to see much. And not really have much time to react with that when it comes to storm chasing. All right, enough about that. Yes, Andrew, if you're watching right now, Andrew, yes, it will come out shortly. The sun is not that far off. Going back to this, you can see that just off to our west, the sun's already pushed east. That back end of the line, it'll be here downtown within an hour. And it will have no problem jumping back up to about 82, 84 degrees in most spots, which will be plenty enough to get these storms going. Keeping an eye back here. Let me get rid of that. Keeping an eye back here. This is where the storms are expected to kind of develop here in the next hour-ish. Somewhere right in this area where we're seeing that break in the clouds. This is where we're going to see that next round of storms start to develop. Just keeping a very close eye on things, especially this cumulus field that's in southeast Missouri. That looks to be the spot where things are going to start to initiate here within about an hour or so. And then that's the line we're going to keep a very close eye on. It will not arrive here in the tri-state until about sunset in a lot of spots. So again, with the sun popping out here in an hour, hanging around for much of the day, I do not want you to let your guards down. It will be a fairly nice day for much of the day. Look at that, 5 o'clock, heading home, great weather. Going to be warm. The wind is going to start to kick up. You'll notice more of a breeze today. Just another tornado ingredient. Gusting to about 25 miles per hour, sustained at 15. It's going to be a noticeable breeze out of the southwest this afternoon. Otherwise, it'll feel like a nice day. Don't take advantage of that because you're probably going to see a lot of dinner reservations open for outdoor dining. While you might be able to sneak it in if it's like a 5 to 7 o'clock dinner reservation, that's the window when we're going to start to see those discrete cells popping up, and I don't want anybody to get caught outside in that. So the discrete cells, like the one down in Owen County showing up in this particular model, that's what we're worried about early on. The damaging wind threat comes with that line, that complex, what we call an MCS, a mesoscale convective system. That's nerd talk for a large cluster of storms. That arrives a little later in the evening. So I'm thinking best guesses right now for downtown, because that's where most of the activities are happening tonight. If you're downtown odds are you'll probably start to see some lightning in the distance and hear some rumbles of thunder around 9 o'clock or sooner. If this storm complex gains a little bit of forward momentum as we work our way through the evening, it could certainly outrun the model time here. So just be aware of that. This is subject to change. It's meant to give you kind of an idea on when to expect things. Early in the afternoon, you're not going to expect much. It'll be really nice. It'll seem like it's really, really nice outside, but just look how quickly that's going to change by tonight. And these storms will be volatile. We have a big risk outside today. Tornadoes, hail, damaging wind, a little bit of everything. Let me see. I got another model here. I can show you guys that. What do we got? Any more comments? Comments, complaints, suggestions? I'm sure I got complaints. They're always there. Let's see. So, Hannah, I don't know what your house situation is. Maybe it's the fact that you don't have a basement. A lot of people do in this area, but I've worked in parts of the country where people don't have basements. Generally, the best thing to do, you don't want to ever try to get out and outrun it. It's never great. You never know what you're going to run into. Down trees, you can get stuck outside, and the car is kind of the worst spot to be. Maybe not the worst. I mean, standing outside an open field would probably be worse, but you're not going to do that. So in that situation, what you want to do is put as many doors between you and the outside as, not doors, walls between you and the outside as possible. Don't go in a room, if you can avoid it, that has a door to the outside, a window to the outside. So the suggestions typically are going to be, an interior closet, like a coat closet. Get in there, cover yourself with some coats. Bathrooms, interior bathrooms are great if you can lay down in the bathtub because those structurally are pretty good. Or if you have, a set of stairs that go upstairs on your first floor, get to the first floor layer if there's a little closet under the stairs because those are built and engineered pretty sturdily. Sturdy? They're very sturdy. I don't know if I just made up a word or just made one up. Yeah. Anyway, so with that, under the staircase is usually a good spot just because of how they're engineered. Not everybody has that Harry Potter staircase closet, but if you do, that's a great spot to be. Bathroom, interior bathroom, just put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. Don't look out the window. One, it's going to be late at night. You're not going to see anything. Don't stand on the front porch and wait for it, again, because these will be moving quick. You don't want to get stuck outside with that. Any chance of it weakening? No. I mean, not with the sunshine coming in. If these clouds had hung around or that wave of rain we just saw was here through about 3 in the afternoon, I'd be a little bit more suspicious of the models, but I do not see it weakening before it gets here. Looks to be pretty intense. Again, ton of events happening. We have the Battle of Ohio battling Mother Nature tonight. Fireworks Friday, a big night for that. A lot of people are going to be there just because of the rivalry. A lot of people are going to be going down just because of the fireworks. Be careful. If they say anything on the board, we do weather for the Reds. So if you see anything on the board that says, you need to go to the concourse or you need to do something, go to their safety protocols or whatever, for whatever reason, just do it. Don't be the person that sits out in the seats out there until the lightning, strikes one of the outfield poles. You don't want to be that guy. Yeah, if you don't have a secured house, if it's manufactured, home, if you have somewhere else you can just hang out this evening just to be safe, that's a great spot to be. Like I said, you don't want to do it last second. You don't want to wait until the tornado warning is 5 minutes from your house and then try to figure it out. So maybe try to have a plan in place if there is somewhere better you can go. Don't stay in a mobile home if the tornado watch gets issued tonight. With how volatile this atmosphere is, how strong these tornadoes can be. Mobile homes, especially those that are anchored and not anchored, even if they are anchored, they're not very easy. They're not built well enough to withstand the kind of tornadoes we could see tonight. It's just not. I mean, that you always see the news stories about it. Even in a damaging wind, even if it's not the tornado, damaging wind in excess of 75 miles an hour, it's as bad as a tornado in most cases. You do not want to be in that for that. You don't want to try to ride it out, especially if you're not tied down or anchored. That's not a good spot to be. So personally, if I was in that situation, I would not want to be there if a tornado watch gets issued through the evening hours. So if that gets issued for your area and, it's looking rough, and the odds are it will be looking rough by about dinner time or so. I would try to find another spot if you can do that, just to be on the safe side out there tonight, especially with a moderate risk. Yeah, the nighttime ones are bad. This one luckily won't be the early overnight hours when most people are in bed, but you know, there are still people. Heck, I like to go to bed at 10:30 if I can. Yeah, these storms, most of them should be out of here by midnight to 1 o'clock in the morning. So it's not going to be, please stay up and listen to me talk on the air wall to wall until 3 in the morning. I'm not going to put you through that tonight, hopefully. Steve and I will both be here, though, for the rest of the afternoon. I think at some point the last 40 minutes, Catherine has gone home. She covered me for the morning show so I could work a little later today. So, yeah, we'll be here to get you through it. I know that this is a lot, you know, it's a high anxiety kind of a day. You know, when we talk storms like this, for a lot of people have storm anxiety. And, you know, I found that more of a reassuring message, kind of more informative than trying to say, oh, it's going to be crazy, typically does well. Just know that you'll have several ways to, you know, at least watch us. You know, be it your phone, on YouTube or Facebook. We'll go live on those tonight if we have to, over the air as well. I think we have UFL tonight on or something like that at 8 o'clock, so if that happens, apologies in advance if you're a UFL fan, the United Football League or whatever it's called. That's me not being a good station employee and knowing exactly what's happening tonight. But one of those things. Let's see. I'm going to hop over and see if I can look at these comments here on this page. What do we got? Hillsborough. Yeah, so again, just generally, I know we got a lot of people probably asking in the comments section on timing. So let me go back over this again. I'm going to pull this back up. And this is not going to be an answer that everybody likes, but here is the general window of arrival time. I'm not going to address every city, because every city, when I go through this, I'll have covered the same cities or a city right next to it 100 times. So here is the general map of what we're dealing with. In our westernmost communities, west of downtown, that window for severe weather opens up later on today about 5 to 6 o'clock. That is when we're expecting those discrete storms to start to develop very quickly and push in. Not everybody at that point will get rain, but that is the earliest we could see this evening. The banner's kind of cut off up there because I made this very hastily. This evening, this is just arrival time, not how long it's going to stick around. This is just when they first could arrive. 5 to 7 o'clock off to the west. So mostly southeast Indiana, Carroll, Gallatin County, Owen County, somewhere in that time frame, 5 to 7. A little closer to downtown. Again, models have it. They kind of go back and forth. As early as 7 o'clock, more likely 8 to 9 o'clock. But that's the earliest. You could start to run into some issues. I would not make a 7 o'clock dinner reservation and hope that it comes at 8 and 9. I would not make that outdoor dinner reservation and hope for the best. Just assume that sometime between 7 and 9 that bad weather comes in. Earlier, or actually a little bit later off to the east, 9 to 10 o'clock in our easternmost communities. So that includes, you know, just assume around 9 o'clock in the eastern side of the 275 loop, and then a little bit later over towards Clinton, Highland, Adams, you know, Mason, Lewis counties, Kentucky, Brown County. Generally an evening threat. And some of this will happen, it'll come in after sunset tonight. Sunset tonight's 8:45, so we'll be losing daylight pretty quickly by 8 o'clock because the clouds will be thickening up. So a lot of this you're not going to actually see with your eyes as it pushes in, other than the abundance of lightning as those storms push back in. Moving back to the model, let's hop around and show you different models here, and then I'm going to hop off in probably about 10 minutes just so I can grab a quick lunch before anything happens. So this is what we have. Again, discrete storms are possible between 5 to 8 o'clock. Not widespread at that point, but anywhere around and west of downtown, we have the opportunity. Take this, it's just a weather model, so with a grain of salt, I use it more for timing than specific location on storms like this. Timing by 8 o'clock, 5 to 8, that's our window to see those discrete storms that have a higher probability, more than likely, to rotate. They're more likely tornado producers, hail producers, large hail. And of course, you can get some damaging wind out of those. That's 5 to 8 o'clock. After 8 to 9, those storms will be starting to push back in, or will try to start to push in towards downtown. That's 9 o'clock. You see how that rain is already within the 275 loop. So 8 to 9, that's more likely when we have those storms pressing in downtown. This model's been very good so far this spring, so we'll hope this timing is exact. But just note, it could vary by an hour or two on either side. By 10 o'clock, most of the damaging wind threat with that bow of storms up to the top is pushing through portions of eastern Hamilton County. Butler, Warren, Clinton counties, it's pushing on through by 9 to 10 o'clock. And then altogether, these storms will start to wrap up through the early overnight. By 1 o'clock, most of us are drying out. It's going to be very windy outside. We're going to see gusts of about 40 miles an hour through the early overnight, and then gusts more so around 30 miles an hour through the day Saturday, 30 to 35. Enough that it's going to be uncomfortable to be outside for a long time, just because it's going to be windy. But other than that, a mostly dry Saturday. You can see all that rain's out of here. We're enjoying a pretty good start to the weekend. For comparison's sake, let me just, because I'm a glutton for punishment, show you a different weather model. And I'll show you why we just kind of use these as a grain of salt. By 4 to 5, you'll see that there's little storms that kind of want to fire up, right? So that's why that window opens up in the afternoon for those discrete cells. This one doesn't have many discrete cells at all ahead of the line, so something to monitor. And this also brings those storm chances in as one solid line pushing through, which would be an increased wind threat. But it still brings it in between 8 to 9, so the timing is the same. It just brings it in as a storm mode a little bit differently. So, again, if we're going by the half an hour, we'll see how good it is. 8:30 it is when it has that line of storms downtown. Again, you do not want to be caught outside at an outdoor event without a way to seek shelter in that line of storms. And it has it out of here well before midnight. 11 o'clock outside of Lewis County and southeastern Adams County, everybody's dry. And then we're drying out for Saturday. So a few clouds out there, breezy conditions, but a nice start to the weekend. All right, so will it make the storm calmer? No. It's kind of like charging a battery in this case. Think of the atmosphere like a battery. I don't know. I'm just going to use that analogy. We're going to be charging rapid fire over the next couple of hours. We have a lot of sunshine, unabated sunshine, just off to our west. This goes to David, who was on the Facebook page. They're commenting. All this sunshine just off to our west. These clouds are quickly clearing out. Just by the time I've been talking, less than an hour, it's gone from mostly cloudy in Decatur County to mostly sunny. Same with Fayette County up in southeast Indiana. You can see where the back end of this cloud cover is quickly eroding. The cumulus field is already starting to develop. These are kind of little thunderstorm seeds that are starting to sprout across central Indiana just because the atmosphere is already that favorable just off of the west. So we'll quickly jump from where we're at right now, which, according to my watch, 76 degrees at the airport. We'll get back into the low to mid-80s very quickly. As long as we get there before the sun sets, which will happen, it's not going to make, the sun setting at that point won't make the storms any weaker. Whereas areas of eastern Ohio, the storms are hanging around a lot longer. There will be less of an opportunity with that daylight to recharge the atmosphere, and that's why they're not going to see that severe weather threat just kind of keep on keeping on over there to the east. All right, so I'm going to hop off here. Steve will be in soon. We'll talk about this, and we'll be on the stream whenever we have some opportunities this afternoon, this evening. Be very careful if you're going to be out and about, doing anything, because it's just going to be one of those nights where the atmosphere is just ripe. It will not be like last night where there's a cap. These will be unrestricted from development. They're going to start to fire here the next couple of hours. We'll keep an eye on that. Keep an eye on my Facebook page, Fox 19 Now Facebook page. We'll update the website as we work way through the afternoon. If anything drastic happens, we'll be on there as well. Of course, we'll have a whole slew of reporters out and about this evening if anything really bad happens, and we hope it doesn't. Keep it tuned here. We'll have several ways for you to get alerted to the severe weather break-in as necessary tonight, and it will be a much better weekend. We just have about, let's say 12 hours to get through together here, and we'll make it to the weekend just fine. All right, that'll do it for me. We'll see you again at 3 o'clock on the air, 4 o'clock on the air, all the way through the evening, and if nothing has happened at that point, we'll be on at 7 back here in the streaming center too, to give you kind of a last-minute update before these storms roll on in. So be safe out there. Don't let your guard down this afternoon.